Okay, in this video, I am going to go through the tournament that I played with the 1990s American League Diamond Gems. This set, between sets A and B, you have seven teams from the American League represented from the 1990s. And right off the bat, let me show you the brackets, the way the tournament is set up, because there's one note that I wanted to make right off of the top. Going off of my point system, which basically works as 10-5-3. You get 10 points if you win the World Series, you get 5 if you win your league championship series, and you get an additional 3 points if you won 100 games. And then what I use as a tiebreaker basically is total number of wins. But I did run into a little bit of an issue here based on the rankings, because I have the 1990 Oakland A's and the 1995 Cleveland Indians, who both finished with 8 points based on the fact that they won their league championship series, and both won 100 games. And under normal circumstances, the 1990 A's would have had a higher ranking than the 95 Indians. But one of the things that I had to take into account was that the 95 Indians won 100 games in only a 144 game season, and the 1990 A's won 103 games in a normal 162 game season. So, what I decided to do to try to keep it fair was I decided to make Cleveland 5 and Oakland 6, which is really a big deal, because that's the difference between, in this particular tournament, that's the difference between playing two playing games as opposed to just one. So I did kind of go a little back and forth deciding on what I wanted to do, and I feel like this was the most fair way to do it. So in the first playing game, we're going to have the 97 Orioles taking on the 1990 Oakland A's in a one game playoff. And then the winner of that will go on to play the 1995 Cleveland Indians in a one game playoff. Then the next day starts the best of three, where you have the number 4 seed, the 1996 Yankees, waiting to play. And the three teams who have a bye through this first part of the tournament, at number 3, we have the 1991 Twins set up to play the number 2 seed 1992 Toronto Blue Jays, and the number 1 seed is the 1998 New York Yankees. So that's how the tournament lays out to start. Real quick, just to go through. As far as days off, no day off between the first playing game and after the second playing game. The next day starts a best of three at the 1996 Yankees. All three games, if necessary, will be played in New York. And then after that best of three is done, one day off leads into the best of five semifinals, where I do a 2-2-1 format, where the first two games are at the high seed, and then the next two games are at the lower seed, and then you go back, if necessary, for a game five to the higher seed, and then follow the same procedure for the final round of the tournament. So let me get right into the results of the tournament. And once again, I don't really go into great depth on these games. So at least in the early part of the tournament, I'll usually drop just like one or two little um, plays that stuck out in the game. So feel free to pause the video if you want to just look over the play-by-play. In the first playing game, we got the 1997 Baltimore Orioles at the 1990 Oakland A's. Dave Stewart against Mike Mussina, and you're going to see that the 1990 A's are able to win this one in 13 innings, as they win it by a score of 3-2, as it was Carney Lansford with the walk-off single, scoring Mike Gallego in that bottom half of the 13th inning. You could see in the play-by-play there, in the bottom half of the 13th inning, the inning was extended by a big error by Rafael Palmeiro at first base to keep the inning going, and then it was Lansford with the two-out hit to win it. So the 1990 A's are moving on, and the next day they will go to Cleveland to take on the 1995 Indians, where we have Bob Welch on the mound for Oakland and Ken Hill for the 1995 Cleveland Indians, and you can see the Indians win this one fairly easily by a score of 8-3. They trailed 2-1 going into the bottom half of the fifth inning, and then the Indian bats were able to explode 4-6 runs. The big hits in that inning, with two outs, you had a two-out ribby single by Eddie Murray, and then Jim Thome with the kill shot. He hits the three-run home run to make it 7-2, and from there, Cleveland was able to hold on to win 8-3. So the 1995 Indians are now moving on to the best of three round, where they will take on the 1996 New York Yankees. And in the first game of that series, we got Dennis Martinez going for the Indians and Andy Pettit for the 96 Yanks. And you can see the Indians take game one by a score of 4-3, as it was RBI single by Omar Vizquel and a two-run home run by Albert Bell to give the Indians a 4-0 lead in the top half of the third inning. And those were the only runs they would score in the game. And really an outstanding performance by the Indians bullpen in this game, as they're able to cover 3 2/3 innings of shutout ball. So they get the all important game one of the best of three. Now in game number two, we have Charles Nagy going on the mound for the Indians, and he's going up against David Cone. And you're going to see the 1995 Indians are moving on to the semifinals, as they win this one by a score of 10-8. It was really what was a really wild game. You can see neither starting pitcher really did that well, although Nagy did get the win as he allowed 4 runs in 5 innings of work. You had a really big game out of Eddie Murray, as he goes 2 for 5 with a home run and 4 RBIs. The Indians got 3 big runs in the top half of the ninth inning to really open up a big lead, and they really needed those runs because the Yankees were able to make it interesting in the bottom half of the ninth inning, as they were able to plate 2 runs across, and they were able to bring the tying run to the plate. But nonetheless, the 1995 Indians are moving on to the semifinals, where they will take on the number one seed, the 1998 New York Yankees. And in the other semifinal, we have the 1991 Minnesota Twins taking on the 1992 Toronto Blue Jays. And let's get started right there with the 91 Twins taking on the 92 Blue Jays. In game number one, we got Jack Morris for the Twins and David Cone for the Jays. And as you look at game number one, you could see that I had to have it bleed onto a second page, as it goes 16 innings, and the 92 Blue Jays win it by a score of 5-4. These are really the games that I hate coming across whenever I do these tournaments or solo playthroughs of any kind, because you really don't want to make any mistakes along the way. So you kind of play things pretty close to the vest, don't really want to do anything too much out of the norm. You could see in the top half of the 14th inning, the 91 Twins took a 4-2-3 lead thanks to a Shane Mack home run. He hit that off of David Wells. And the bottom half of the 14th inning, now I already had Rick Aguilera in the game. He came in the bottom half of the 13th inning, and he is only a 1 inning reliever, but I had to stretch him out for a second inning trying to get this win for the 91 Twins. But you could see Devon White had a RBI single to tie it, and then the 92 Blue Jays are able to walk it off with a 2-out single by Joe Carter, which scored Devon White from second base. So the 92 Blue Jays take game number one by a score of 5-4. And as I show you the entire game side by side here, you can see what I kind of do when these games stretch out onto a second page is I don't write the lineups down in order like 1 through 9. I just go in the order of guys that are up next. So if you're looking at these last 3 innings, no, Candy Maldonado does not lead off for the 1992 Twins. It's just the order of the batting order as the game moves on. So I just do that because it's easier for me to keep track. So 92 Blue Jays take game number one. Now in game number two, we got Scott Erickson for the 91 Twins. He's going up against Jack Morris for the 92 Jays, and you're going to see the 91 Twins win this one by a score of 5-4, thanks to a Kent Herbeck solo home run in the top of the ninth. He hit that off of Dwayne Ward. So as we go back to Minnesota for games three and four, we have a 1-1 series tie. Now in game number three, Jimmy Key going up against Kevin Tapani, and the 92 Jays win this one by a score of 2-0. Jimmy Key, six shutout innings, and he's backed up by Dwayne Ward and Tom Henke throwing three scoreless innings out of the pen. So the 92 Blue Jays take a 2-1 series lead in this best of five. So going into game four, I really had no other choice for the 91 Twins other than bringing back Jack Morris on 3 days rest, and he's going up against Juan Guzman for the 92 Blue Jays. And you could see, thanks due in large part to Candy Maldonado, who hit two solo home runs in the game, the 92 Blue Jays are able to defeat the 91 Twins 5-3. So the 1992 Blue Jays are moving on to my American League Championship round, where they will sit around and wait and see who wins between the 95 Indians and 1998 New York Yankees. And also, just another note here, the 92 Blue Jays are sitting in pretty good shape um, as they move on to my final round, because now they are going to get 2 full days off going into the championship round, and their rotation is basically set because they used four starters in the four games in the semifinal round. So the 92 Blue Jays will go into the championship round with a fully rested and reset starting rotation. And let's see what happens in that Indians Yankees semifinal round. In game number one, you got Oral Hershiser on the mound for the Indians and David Wells for the Yanks. You can see the Yankees take game one by a score of 4-2. The big hit in that game was Tino Martinez hit a 3-run home run off of Paul Ossenmacher in the bottom half of the sixth inning. I decided to bring Otzenmacher into the game at that point. It was 1-0 with two out and one on. And the Yankees had Martinez and Strawberry coming up. Just the thing with Tino Martinez is he's a lefty bat who really isn't affected adversely by facing left-handed pitching. So happened to roll Tino's card and he popped one out to make it 4-0. Indians made it interesting as Albert Bell hit a two-run home run in the top half of the seventh inning, but Mariano Rivera was able to close it out. So the Yankees take game one by a score of 4-2. In game number two, Ken Hill against Orlando Hernandez, and you can see Indians win this one by a score of 3-1 as Ken Hill throws six shutout innings in the win. Just a couple of notes about the marks that are on this page here. You can see where I have no DH next to Cleveland. That was because in the top half of the ninth inning, I pinch ran Kirby for Eddie Murray trying to get an extra run in. And since Manny Ramirez made the last out, I decided to leave Kirby in the game in right field for defensive purposes. And you could also see I put Espinoza third and brought Perry into the game at first base. That's one thing which I kind of like about the 95 Indians is you do have pieces that you could bring in off the bench. Um, who are really nice defensive replacements to throw out there in a close game. If you're looking to hold a lead, just to kind of ensure that you're not making any mistakes in the field. But you could see the Indians take game number two. So the series goes back to Cleveland with the series tied a game apiece. In game number three, you got David Cohn against Dennis Martinez. And you can see the Yankees take a wild one by a score of 13-7. Um, this was one of those games that the 98 Yankees, this is one of the reasons why they are really such a dangerous Strat-O-Matic team. You look at the game Scott Brosius had, he has 4 hits, 4 RBIs, and 3 runs scored hitting out of the 9 hole. Um, so really a big game out of him. The Indians fell behind 4-0 in the game, and then they were able to take a 5-4 lead after 3 innings. But the Indians made a couple mistakes in the field during the game that really hurt them, specifically the E9 on Manny Ramirez in right field in the bottom half of the second inning. That was when Brocious was at the plate. And then you had Jim Thome make a big error when Derek Jeter was batting in the top half of the eighth inning, and that was followed up by a Paul O'Neill three-run home run. So the Indians' defense really let them down in this game a little bit. Yankees win this one by a score of 13-7, so they take a 2-1 series lead. In game number four, you got Andy Pettitte on the mound against Chad Oj. And you can see the Indians win this one by a score of 6-5, as they were really able to hold on really by the skin of their teeth. The Indians had a 6-0 lead after five, and the Yankees had a couple of opportunities to either uh, tie it or take the lead. You can see in that ninth inning, you had a ribby single by Knobloch, and then Derek Jeter had an RBI ground out to make it 6-5. And with the tying run at second base, Jose Mesa is able to get Paul O'Neill out. So the Indians win game number four by a score of 6-5, and we move on to a game five back in Yankee Stadium, where it's a rematch of the game one starters, Oral Hershiser against David Wells. Both pitchers pitched really well, and you can see the 98 Yankees are moving on to the championship round, where they will take on the 1992 Blue Jays as they win this one by a score of 3-2. The RBIs, the Yanks RBI single by Paul O'Neill, ribby sac fly by Bernie Williams, and then really the big hit was the ribby double by Tino Martinez to make it 3-1. Indians were able to make it a one-run game with an Albert Bell home run in the top half of the fourth inning to make it 3-2, and that's how the score would stay. As really just again another terrific performance by David Wells. Stretch Mariano Rivera out to an inning and two-thirds to close it out. And so that does it for what was really a terrific semifinal series between two teams who I personally think are the two best teams in this American League Diamond Gem set for the 1990s. I really feel like, just in pure Strat-O-Matic terms, that the 95 Indians and the 98 Yankees are really the two best teams. And the series really played out that way. As really the only game that really kind of got out of hand was game number three, which the Yankees won by six, winning at 13-7. But remember, in that game, the Indians did have a 5-4 lead after three innings, and sometimes you get games like that that just get out of control a little bit. But nonetheless, that sets us up for a American League Championship round for my 1990s tournament between the 1998 New York Yankees and the 1992 Toronto Blue Jays. Okay, let's go through the American League final with the 92 Blue Jays and the 98 Yankees. And one thing right off the bat, I decided last minute to make this championship round a best of seven instead of a best of five, because it kind of dawned on me that now, playing with exclusively teams from the 1990s, championship rounds are now best of seven as we get into the 90s. Unlike the 80s, where from 80 to 84, the LCS was a best of five and they picked up the best of seven format in 85. What I decided to do was make this a best of seven, which I actually prefer playing best of five series because I think it keeps games one and two a little more exciting and interesting. But I felt it only be fair that we make the championship round a best of seven. So anyway, game one, Toronto at New York. We got David Cohn going for the 92 Jays and Orlando Hernandez for the 98 Yankees. And you could see the Toronto Blue Jays win this one by a score of 2-0. I felt going in that the Yankees had a little bit of a leg up going into this game because Orlando Hernandez's card is really, really good against right-handed hitters. And you've heard me speak in the past on the 92 Blue Jays being right-handed hitter heavy. And Hernandez did pitch a terrific game, only allowing the one run in 8 innings. But Blue Jay pitchers were just a little bit better as they shut the Yankees out 2-0 in game number one. So in game number two, we got Jack Morris going for the 92 Blue Jays, and David Cohn switches locker rooms and uniforms and is now pitching for the 1998 Yankees. So in game number two, you're going to see the Blue Jays win this one by a score of 8-7 in what was really a really wild game. especially when you consider the fact that the Yankees had a 7-0 lead after 2 innings in this game. The Blue Jays were able to claw back with 2 runs in the third and then 2 more big runs in the fifth. Devon White had a 2-run home run to make it 7-4. And then in that top half of the seventh inning, with the Yankees going into the inning with a 7-4 lead, this is really where the 98 Yankees, and you've heard me speak on this when I did my team analysis on the 98 Yanks, this is really where a lack of bullpen depth really came back to really bite the 98 Yankees. Because if we go through the inning play by play, Devon White leads off by making out. Then Roberto Alomar reaches on a Chuck Knobloch error. You get a single by Carter and a double by Dave Winfield. Now, that area where Carter and Winfield were up, that's where in a 7-4 game, I would feel a little bit better if I had like a right-handed reliever who was really good at getting right-handed batters out. The 98 Yankees really don't have that on their Strat-O-Matic team, so I left Cone in there. And then after the ribby double by Winfield, I bring in Graham Lloyd to try to get Olerud out. Well, sure enough, I roll Olerud's card. He gets a 2 RBI single, so the game is tied at 7. And then in the top half of the eighth inning, you get a Devon White single, stolen base, and a Roberto Alomar 2-out ribby single to make it 8-7, and that's how the game would stay. Once again, just a terrific performance by the Blue Jays bullpen as they cover 7 innings without giving up a run in the game. You could see David Wells, Mark Eichhorn, Bob McDonald, Dwayne Ward, and on the back of the page, Tom Henke, 1 inning. And let me just say, I apologize for doing the play-by-play on this standard paper. I'm just thanks to shrinkflation, I can't find the normal size notebooks anymore. So I had to resort to using loose leaf paper here. But anyway, the 92 Blue Jays are up 2 games to none as the series goes back to Toronto for games 3, 4, and if necessary, game 5. And Toronto really has a leg up going into games 3 and 4 because even though the Yankees will have David Wells going on the mound, who's their best pitcher in game number 3, this Blue Jay lineup is, in my opinion, a lot stronger going up against left-handed pitching than it is right-handed pitching because once again, this Blue Jay lineup is really stacked with a lot of right-handed hitters. So again, game 3, Yankees at Blue Jays. David Wells against Jimmy Key. And again, for the third straight time in this playoff, David Wells pitches a really nice game for the 98 Yankees, but it wasn't enough as the 92 Blue Jays win this one by a score of 3-1. The big sequence in this game was in the bottom half of the fifth inning with the score tied at 1. You had back-to-back home runs leading off the inning by Maldonado and Kelly Gruber to put the Blue Jays up by the score that they would actually win the game by 3-1. You can see it was a game where the Yankees really left a lot of scoring opportunities on the table as they get 1 run in a game where they had 9 hits. So the Toronto Blue Jays, through 3 games in this best of 7, have a 3-0 series lead on the 98 Yankees. Now, as we move on to game number 4, I have Andy Pettitte on the mound for the 98 Yankees and Juan Guzman for the 92 Toronto Blue Jays. And you're going to see that the 1992 Toronto Blue Jays complete a 4-game sweep of the 1998 New York Yankees, and they win by 1990's American League Strat-O-Matic tournament. Now, let's dig into this game a little bit here. In the top half of the second inning, Scott Brocious hits a 2-out grand slam to give the 98 Yanks a 4-0 lead. And then you could see from here, the 92 Blue Jays started chipping away. They get a run back in the bottom of the second. They get 2 in the bottom of the third. So with the score 4-3 going into the bottom of the fourth, and really not comfortable with Andy Pettitte, who frankly did not have that great of a card in 1998, and knowing the 98 Yankees had to win this game to extend the series, I decided to bring in Ramiro Mendoza, and he is terrific out of the bullpen for the 98 Yanks as he's able to throw 4 scoreless innings. But you could see it was the 92 Blue Jays bullpen was able to match what Mendoza was giving the Yankees. So the score stayed 4-3 until we got to the bottom half of the ninth inning. And you could see if we go play by play in the bottom half of the ninth inning, Gruber and Borders lead off by making out. And then I pinch hit Turner Ward for Manuel Lee. He gets a single. And then that's followed by back-to-back singles by Devon White and Roberto Alomar. So the game is 4-4 going into extra innings. And finally, in the bottom half of the 12th inning, you get a leadoff single, then a stolen base by Roberto Alomar. I intentionally walked Joe Carter. And then it was actually Derek Bell getting the walk-off single because Derek Bell pinch ran for Dave Winfield in the bottom half of the eighth inning. So the 1992 Blue Jays once again get a terrific performance out of their bullpen in game number 4 as they go 5 scoreless innings. And the 92 Blue Jays win my 1990s American League Strat-O-Matic tournament in a result that is, frankly, it's a little bit surprising. Not that the 92 Blue Jays won the tournament, but it did surprise me that the 92 Jays were able to sweep the 1998 Yankees in the championship round. It was a round where, if I just show you the stats, you're going to see that the 92 Blue Jays in this 4-game sweep of the 1998 Yankees, 92 Blue Jays bullpen allows no runs in 16 and a third innings. I mean, just an absolutely terrific job. A couple of hitters who had some standout performances for the 92 Jays in this 4-game sweep. Roberto Alomar, you see he goes 8 for 20 with 4 runs scored in the series, 3 RBIs. Devon White had a really nice series as well, as he goes 6 for 18 with 3 runs scored and 2 ribbies. John Olerud was excellent. He goes 8 for 17 with 2 runs scored and 4 RBIs. So the 92 Blue Jays win my tournament by going 7-1 as they defeat the 1991 world champion Minnesota Twins in a best of 5. And then they sweep the 1998 New York Yankees. So now what happens is the 92 Blue Jays are going to sit around and wait and see who they play as I have to get my 1990s National League tournament started, which I haven't even started formatting that tournament yet. But I can tell you right off the bat, one interesting thing is that you're going to have a couple of really good Strat-O-Matic teams who did not win the World Series in the decade of the 90s. So 2 teams that come to mind are the 1993 Giants and the 1996 Atlanta Braves. That's going to be an example of where you're going to have 2 teams who are kind of lower seeds who are going to have a really good chance, in my opinion, to go through that tournament. But that's for another video for another day. Hopefully I'll have that video up in probably about a month or so. You know, it takes me a couple of weeks to play these tournaments and put my videos together. But that's what I got for you in my 1990s American League tournament. The 1992 Blue Jays are the victors as they sweep the 1998 New York Yankees in my championship round, 4-0. Once again, I thank you all for watching. It is greatly appreciated, and I will talk to you all down the road.